Hello, welcome in. Oh, I don't have a pipe, but enjoying some fine filtered tap water. Hello, welcome to the today's video. Not much of a theme today. I just wanted to make a video, not really about anything in particular, but really just kind of about a comment I got, which I thought was a great question, and I could have answered it just in the comments, but I thought I would answer it with a video because there's just a lot going on debate-wise in the world. Have you felt that? Do you feel those vibes?
Oh.
I kind of feel it too. Like on my campus, on the Instagram on the campus, I saw the political science club the politics club had a debate, and they're having a dinner. Some faculty is putting together a dinner to talk about sensitive issues, political, how to talk about the campaign. And there's like a new debate team club thing starting on my campus. This is all at St. John's University, by the way. And it's just weird that, first of all, people don't reach out to the communication department because people don't really value communication as a discipline, I don't think. They value communication, but it's not thought of as a discipline. It's thought of as a method. It's the old Socratic critique from Gorgias, where Socrates says to Gorgias, look, you say you teach how to speak well about all subjects, but that's not a subject in and of itself. That's not a discipline. That's how all disciplines are known. So if you wanted to learn how to be a cobbler or a painter, you'd go talk to that expert, and that expert would use communication to get you to get you in touch or connected with that discipline. But it's not a discipline in and of itself. And I think that argument has won for the most part, unfortunately, because people just don't think of it as a discipline. But it really is disciplinary in the sense that if you look at how people communicate, when you communicate with other people, you're constituting both the message and the audience. And the message changes as the audience changes, and the audience changes as the message changes, and it's this interweaving kind of thing. But the demand for debate is high, so when I saw this comment, let me pull it up. I thought maybe we would play a little bit on the whiteboard with this comment because I thought it was pretty good. Pretty good comment. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this without too much trouble here. It's from Reason Rainbow, and this is from here on YouTube. The opposition claimed the assertions being presented by the other side were racist. The opposition won the debate with a strategy. As a result, I didn't get to witness much debate on the motion. But I'm assuming now the opposition would use the critique method. Do you agree? Yes, I would. And in order to make sense of this, we have to kind of look at critiques in a little bit more detail. So here's a couple of ways of looking at that and how critiques function and how they're different than disadvantages. A lot of debate people, policy debate, they think of it depends on what region of the country you're in. There's biases. But I remember going from a district where I taught debate and coached. I really hate that word, but that's kind of the parlance, right? Coached debate for a long time in the Northeast, and then I moved to the Mid-Atlantic, and the attitude about critiques is very different. And critiques are thought of as lazy disadvantages without research, and a lazy way to win a debate. And so the comments that Reason Rainbow's making are not that way, but you could see people make a comment being like, well, you didn't even debate the topic. How could you have won the debate? So that's what I want to explain with this graphic here. So traditionally, you look at disadvantages, and disadvantages have to argue that something about the solvency leads to the disadvantage, and it would be specific to the solvency here. All right, so let's move that up. Yeah, so something about the solvency, that's kind of a bad line. Something about the solvency, it leads to the disadvantage. But the disadvantage can be defeated if you prove that the link is not exactly what you're talking about in the solvency, or that it is non-unique. And this is one that I think a lot of people from critiquey parts of the country, of the United States, don't like about disadvantages and the impact. So uniqueness is the disadvantage has to be a unique result from the action of the plan. Otherwise, they shouldn't be blamed for it. Sure. Like one of the most popular disadvantages historically is economic collapse, economic downturn, economic collapse. If you say, well, that economic collapse is going to happen regardless of the affirmative's plan action, well, then you kind of get off the hook. It sucks because we're still going to have economic collapse, but at least we can solve the issues that we're talking about in the affirmative. Now, as you get into more complex debate, there's other ways you can do that and say, well, which one of these impacts is going to happen first? And is that going to be a reason why you'd vote against the affirmative? The idea is mostly, what's carried over is mostly a judicial framework, which is you shouldn't be blamed for things that you didn't do. It's very highly individualist and very highly like American jurisprudence. You shouldn't be blamed for things that you didn't pre-plan, initiate, like means, motive, opportunity. That's kind of the way disadvantages work. But critiques and what Reason Rainbow witnessed was something a little bit different. So critiques, they have a link, which is, in the words of a very bad lecture that I saw, that I kind of want to make fun of on YouTube, but I don't know if I want to make fun of other debate teachers. Well, these people aren't really teachers, but it was the Barclay Forum. It should be better than it was. It was not good. Not a good talk at all about this kind of stuff. It's kind of embarrassingly bad. But there's like a lot, that's another video. There's a lot of reasons why the debate instruction is bad in this country. But the link is, what is the thing that they're doing that you want to criticize? What is the action they're taking in or outside of the debate that you want to critique? Now, I'm not sure what Reason Rainbow saw or heard, but there's two different ways that could be done. Now, criticisms don't have to be unique, which freaks out people from heavily disadvantage-oriented districts of policy debate, because without uniqueness, you lose like a third of the ways that you can respond to the argument. But the reason critiques don't have to be unique is because they're not causal arguments. It's not because you do this, it leads to this. It's that you are participating in a system of values, a system of ideology, an ideological perspective, an orientation that is harmful now, and by participating in it, you stamp it as approved. You continue that harmful orientation. So since you're marked with it, we can't accept any of the good that would come out of the policy, because of the orientation to it is so much worse than anything there. It's not really like a causal argument, like cause effect. It's more of a because argument. Well, because you use this bad language, or because all of your evidence assumes that people are this way, or that certain identities are this way, then you should lose the debate on that alone. And it can be in different degrees and stuff, but they don't have to be unique. Then they have to have some kind of an implication, which is what is continued. What does it mean to approve of this way of speaking or this way of being in the world? Now, how do they do that? Well, they can do it on pretty much any part of this entire case. You can link to it and say, all of their evidence assumes problem solution mentality. All of their evidence assumes capitalism. All of their evidence assumes top-down power network. And we think that anytime we endorse policy solutions that are top-down governmental, we reaffirm the state, and the state is a very harmful mechanism for addressing people's problems. Great. But there's another thing that can be done too, which is the critique can link to the speaker themselves. Anything that speaker says can be a link to sexist language, oppressive language, essentialist language. It can be anything that they say that's implicated with that kind of ideology. So I've seen debates where the speakers, will mistakenly call someone who's female presenting or one presents as a woman, a man, sir or he, and they argue that erases their identity from the debate. I would think that ignoring someone's pronouns would be a link to a critique. Now, how does this work? Why wouldn't, Reason Rainbow is like, I didn't hear anything about the topic. Well, the argument here is that this is much more important to decide on in terms of who won a debate or not, because debate is, we assume, educational. And so everything happening in the speech is kind of an imagined world. This is the imagined world where we are policy makers, where this policy is actually going to affect, but it's all kind of an imaginary game where we're pretending as if we're acting as the government or talking about governmental policy as if it has some governmental impact. What actually has a lot more impact is the way we speak to each other in this debate. The people in the room, the audience, and the debate students and the judges, the way they're spoken to and speak about one another has much more of a direct impact in terms of harms, in terms of impacts and implications, than the Congress passing something in our imaginary game world. So you'll hear these kind of critiques that happen at the level of language, or what we would call outside of the policy debate, but in the room. People will sometimes say this impact is happening in the room or in the round or in the speeches to each other. It's happening right here. It has these real world implications for us as speakers in this debate. The argument is that takes priority over any loss of jobs or military conflict or anything we can imagine that would happen in the fiated affirmative policy. So they will often have to make an argument. I don't think they really have to do it so much anymore, but when critiques were relatively new, 1990s, early 2000s, by the 2010s, not so much anymore. And I think now almost everything is critical at the highest levels of debate. The last policy debate stuff I judged was stuff people who were going to go to round robin TOC qualifier for UDL, and everything they were saying was critical, and all of this was in there in order to gain critical advantages. So you might say, well, this is really weird. Why do we want to vote on this? But why would I want to vote on the speaker stuff versus the policy? Why would I want to vote on what they're saying and how they're saying it rather than the policy? Well, I mean, isn't that how the last couple of election cycles have gone? You could say, people have said, well, Donald Trump has these great policies. And they say, yeah, but look at how he talks about women. Look at how he talks about immigrants and minorities. Look at how he speaks about these things. And that's exactly the way criticism would work. They would say it doesn't matter how much advantage they get from their proposed policy. What we have to look at is how they speak about it. We can't accept any of this because the impacts of how they speak about it and how they're oriented to it are so much more dangerous that they would swamp or overwhelm any proposed policy impact from that. And that's kind of how the last couple of election cycles have gone when people talk about Donald Trump. So I was thinking about that when I was reading this question. I was like, oh yeah, we're kind of in a critiquey world now with the election. I don't think anybody's terribly interested in policy with the exception of abortion. They're a lot more interested in perception and whether or not these identities feel seen or whether these people are going to be threatened, because it does have policy implications. That critique does. Because you could argue Donald Trump makes people feel emboldened to go after minorities or express themselves very colorfully and vividly in the public. So that's one thing I was thinking about with that. Another thing is thinking about debate as educational. What are we learning about? Are we going to learn more about how the government works or how language works? And I think pretty obviously, debate is a lot more about how language works and how words work to constitute ourselves and others. As we speak, we're constituting our position, but we're also constituting the position of the people who are listening to us. All these things are being constituted and created out of language. So through debate, we learn a lot more about how to approach a topic, describe it, how to describe it in ways that are persuasive to the judge. We're learning a lot more than we are about the actual lever pulling and button pressing at the level of the United States federal government. We learned very little about that because debate is not specific enough on that. Debate is not a simulation of the government, of the Defense Department or the Department of Homeland Security or the Agriculture Department, whatever the topic is. Debate cannot be and does not even purport to be a simulation of that. It's not even a simulation of Congress. In fact, at the high school level, we have an event that's a simulation of Congress. It's called Student Congress. Creative naming. I mean, it does what it says on the label. And policy debate is something else. So what is policy debate? Is it meant to be a simulation of the government and a simulation of the discussion of harms and impacts from government policy? Or is policy debate a weird kind of tool, like a word problem or geography or some kind of mathematical exercise, like a mathematics class, where we are learning how to address these different kinds of equations or problems in order to become more familiar with how these mechanisms work and how these things balance out and work? I would say it's probably more about language than it is about actual government policy. So I think that might answer Reason Rainbow's question. I don't know. Maybe. Only Reason Rainbow knows. But that's why you don't hear much about that, because I think the other team realized with the judge in there that whatever's happening here at the level of the criticism or critique, we use the German spelling in policy debate. I don't know why. I think people are like a little bit, people have some self-confidence problems in debate. And they want to be cool so bad. So they try to be super cool and spell things cool. But really, you could use the French spelling as well if you wanted to, which I think is the spelling that we pick up in English, right? We use the French spelling almost directly across, but the German spelling looks cooler, I think, to people. I don't know why that was chosen. Maybe somebody knows a little bit of the history of that. But the demand for debate right now is high. And the demand for debate being something sensitive that will connect with people on issues like the election, who you're going to be voting for, and all of that, and who you should vote for. Very sensitive topic, and I think the demand for debate stuff is pretty high for that these days. All right, so Reason Rainbow can reply and be like, hey, you nailed it, or actually, I have a different concern, different question. I just got this in the mail today. This is exciting. The Volume 1 of Alan Loudon's much anticipated History of Wake Forest Debate. Look at this. How many pages is this, Al? Yeah, 660 pages. Yeah. 663. It's kind of crazy. And this only covers until 1930. So I guess the second volume would be 1930 to 1970, maybe? I don't know. But it's going to be great. It's going to be great to read. I'm looking forward to reading it. Debate history is one of these things that really sets up debate as a lot more than what people might think of it. I just read this terrible essay that was suggested to me. I got a bad review. And, bad reviews on academic papers is one thing, but I got a terrible review. It was like, you need to cite Scott Jacobs if you're going to talk about theorizing debate. I read the piece. Scott Jacobs isn't interested in theorizing debate one bit. He's interested in usurping debate and taking debate over in order to say, look how common it is. Look how common and how frequent it is in everyday life that people take the analytic philosophical approach towards things like trying to come up with normative procedures for getting to the truth of a proposition. It's like, talk about bleaching out everything interesting about debate. Debate is this social and artistic realm where we play with language and see what the impacts of it are, either in the debate or out of the debate. And I think histories like this are a great way to really understand all the different things that debate can and should be, or how it functions. And I think philosophers like Jacobs don't get it. And or maybe they're just like trying to take it and use it. I mean, that's kind of the history of debate. Let's take it and use it for our purposes. That's kind of how debate was founded in the 19th century, is university presidents being like, hey, intercollegiate sports is great. What else can we make into an intercollegiate contest? And that's the birth of the triangular leagues in the mostly in the Northeast, but also in Ohio and places like that too. But yeah, debate history. Good stuff. And so anyway, let me know your comments, thoughts. I'll probably post a review on Loudon's book once I get it done. I interviewed Al Loudon for the podcast, for my defunct podcast now, In the Bin. But maybe I should post it like as a YouTube video. I didn't take a video of it, it's just audio, but I could just post it with maybe a picture of us or something. I don't know, maybe I'll do that. Could be good. Well, anyway, as always, thanks for watching the video. And there'll be another one. Yeah, post your questions and comments. I'll make a video to answer them. It's so much more interesting to make a video and have a visual aid than to type a response. So I will probably do that. All right. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.